MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Gold. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. We rollin'!
Covering MMA from all over the world, this is the premier stop for all your combat sports needs. MMA Junkie Radio, the only show broadcasting live from the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. The lights are on and the mics are hot. It's time to get your MMA fix, junkies. Take it away, Big John.
Gorgeous George and Gold, are you ready? Junkie Nation, are you ready? Let's get it on!
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you're listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me as always is the devious and dastardly Goes, our ace co-host. To my left, it's the fight analyst, Dan Tom. Back, he's producing the show, Jumbo Josh. Our special co-host for the day is former Bellator featherweight champion, two-time featherweight champion, also a two-time finalist in their early tournaments, and he took one of those down as well. Daniel Straus. What's up, bud?
Doing good, man. How you guys?
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
There we go.
Can you hear me?
No.
Not yet.
And the normal channel's up, even the ones that aren't normal up.
Go like this. Just tap the button.
Try this.
Check.
Tap and tap.
Daniel, we swear, folks, Daniel Straus is here, but his mic tripping.
Yo.
There he is.
Here we go.
All right. How you doing, my man?
In the house. I'm good, man. How you been?
Good. Thank you. I saw you at Extreme Couture.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
A few months ago, and I remember saying, "Oh, you're here now," and you said, "Yeah, you know, you're getting ready for practice," and I figured we'd catch up, and then for some reason, I just spaced it, and I would see you online or just think about you, you know, like in terms of something happening with the featherweights, and I kept making a mental note, call him, and then finally, just the other day, I was like, all right, I dropped what I was doing. I go, are you still in town? You said, yeah, you are. So are you a resident now, or are you a back and forth guy, or what's brought you out here?
I'm a resident right now. I'm living out here. I came out here originally, came out here to do a surgery on my neck, and actually got cleared, so I just stayed and continued to train, and then, you know, so here I am.
Okay. Once the surgery's done, you go back to Florida?
Or
are you liking it? Oh, you're not?
No, I just completely rehabbed, and long story short, I originally, when I was coming out here, I thought I was doing the surgery, and then I got cleared instead of having to do the surgery, so I just stayed, continued to train, and just, you know, when I get done with, you know, living here, I don't, you know, possibly go back. Who knows? I don't know. Probably
Are you liking it here?
I mean,
that means no.
I like it for what I'm using it for. I train my ass off. I go train, take my ass back home. So for me, in that aspect, yeah, I like it. You know, I don't really go out too much. I'm not doing too much out here. So, I mean, other than that, though,
you're not making it rain at the Rhino, or
definitely not.
Any of those.
Can't do
okay.
that.
All right.
So
cool. I want to obviously get into your story and your comeback, but one story, guys, that popped up that it's been on the tip of my tongue is Gilbert Melendez did a recent interview, and he's saying he thinks Nick Diaz hung him up, that he's done. Now, we see Nick a lot in Vegas.
Yeah.
And I always got the feeling he was just on a break looking for the right offer, but I was kind of surprised to hear that, and I'm thinking, oh, man, like with Anderson Silva fighting this weekend, and you never know when he might be done, and a lot of these other stars, you know, DC's got that self-imposed cutoff of March 2019, March 19th, 2019, so it's coming up. All things going to stick to it. You know, I just wonder what is going to happen here. You know, some of these fighters that we've covered for so long are starting to exit.
Yeah,
you know, but I don't know. You think Nick Diaz is done, Daniel?
Man, I mean, me personally as a fan, I would love to see him fight again.
Right.
You know, there's no telling where he's at. You know, for himself. You know how it is. Each fighter is, you know, different. They don't want to take, you know, the shots anymore. They don't want to do the camps anymore. They don't want to cut the weight anymore. So, I mean, all that could be possible with him. You know what I mean? But as a fan, I hope not.
One thing I hear a lot, I've heard this before from him or his camp. He's just waiting for the right offer. So all that means is just pay me and I'll do it, right? It's not a you know, in your circles of people that you've heard say that, Is it a matchup? Is it money? What is it? Or is that just something to keep your name out there when you really know you're retired?
I think it's something with him, like as far as, the time that he's been put in and the amount that he's getting back, what he's done for the sport. And, he feels like he should get big fights and make the money for it. So, however his contract, lines up, I think that's probably one of the reasons why he's not jumping back, as fast as we would all like him to. But yeah, it's probably definitely, something dealing with money. And you know how it is with Nick. He's a Diaz. He's going to do what the fuck he wants when he wants. So,
right. I just think him and his brother have misplayed their hand a little bit because they're early 30 guys. I think Nick's at 35. And I feel like that's when you could have blended your athleticism and the mental game. All the experience you've accumulated from camps and fights and just being around the business to stamp out some of those young guns that come after you. But yet you still have enough experience to win titles or compete or make. You guys only get paid if you make money. Now that said, according to Gilbert Melendez, who was on Chael Sonnen's You're Welcome podcast, when he was talking about his good friends and teammates, Nick and Nate Diaz, he said, "Hey, Nate's living a great lifestyle. They're both immersed a little bit in the cannabis business of doing appearances, and maybe that also means that they could be investors. Or now I hear certain celebs / athletes / entertainers, whatever, have strains named after them. So who knows? I don't really dabble too much in that world, but regardless, he did say that Nate is still chilling. He didn't say he was active. He says he's training hard. His brand is huge. He's so dang famous. He's a guy's an A-lister now. Everyone knows him where I go, is what he was saying. But as far as Nick, he says the quote here was, that he may have hung him up or whatever. And I'm like, whoa.
It sucks.
It does, man.
It does. As a fan, it, definitely sucks, Them being pioneers, at least for a lot of, just bangers in the sport. A lot of guys that came in and just wanted to just brawl. Also looked up to
Nick. He's fought from a young age. He's fought, in the era before the Ultimate Fighter. I guess just pre-tough. I should have said. I almost said pre-Zuffa, but that wouldn't be accurate. But he fought pre-tough because I know his brother came through season 5. They did the WEC trail. Have you ever heard the story with Nick Diaz and Joe Riggs getting into it at the hospital as well?
No.
They fought and Joe beat him. They both went to the hospital, and they were basically throwing down in the hospital as well.
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. No. So, literally, it's 15 years. Now, it could be that he's just up to here. Radio people, I got my hand up by my head, and he just had it with the sport. But for some reason, as they got older, they said, I really don't like this. I'm born to do it, and I'll do it, but you got to pay me. But I really don't like it. But I always thought, I don't know. You guys seem like you're ready to get down anytime. You know what I mean?
You gotta.
Someone shoulder shrugs them at a club or something. It's pretty close to being on.
It's going down.
Right. So might as well get paid. And again, these just seem like prime years. But whatever. I've gone down that road again. I don't want to, bleed people's ears. My thoughts on Nate waiting around for Conor. It's like he's just waiting to be asked, for the ring, for Conor to get down on one knee and say, will you,
And that's the thing.
Will you dance with me again?
Yeah. See, I just want to see them fight, both of them, and either one of them, they made good matchups with, tons of the guys throughout the division. So it's like, for me as a fan, like I said, I don't think waiting for Conor's the best option, because there's tons of fights that that's marketable. So
right.
Yeah, man.
All right, Junkie Nation, if you have any thoughts on this, if it's a simple call, yes or no, as far as Nick Diaz, do you think he's done? Call us, 877-FIGHT-93. That's 877-FIGHT-93. Our guest co-host for the day is Daniel Straus, former Bellator, 2-time Bellator featherweight champion. So we'll tackle some of the latest news. We'll see what's next with Daniel. And he had a serious accident at the end of 2017, so we see where he is with that. And we'll take your calls. Again, 877-FIGHT-93. You're all squared away, guys?
Yeah.
What happened here?
I don't know. We had the Clearwater Beach Bad Boy was here the other day, so it was.
He jinxed it, huh?
He jinxed us. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, what'd you think of the Diaz news?
I don't think he's coming back.
No? You think that's
No.
really it, huh?
I think that's it. Well, I
He
think in
makes
his mind,
that much
he's not
from an
coming
appearance? How much can an appearance pay? Well, I do know cannabis is blowing up.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
I have a buddy who works for CHP, California Highway Patrol, and he said that they landed a contract. They escort armored trucks from some of these cannabis business.
back. Really?
Yeah. And because I even joked with him, I go, what are you guys, the Sons of Anarchy or what? You know, because if you watch those fictional motorcycle club TV shows on FX, like Sons of Anarchy or the Mayans, that's kind of what they do. They kind of get paid to escort, you know?
Yeah.
You watch those shows?
I've seen them.
Yeah.
I didn't really.
So that was my joke to him. He goes, no, we really landed that contract, and it pays us well, and it's just very lucrative. Now, he works more in the Northern Cal area where, of course, people be getting high up there, you know? So maybe it's just a lot more prevalent over there. But, of course, Vegas is a legalized state medicinally or recreationally. So, and the other day I dropped off Sammy the Squid at an unnamed location. Can't sell him out. But near that area, wow, it looked like a shopping mall.
Oh, I saw some of those.
Have you seen that spot?
Yeah, there was 2 of them.
Yeah.
And they almost looked like little hotels. They were all lit up and everything. It looked
Yeah,
big.
I was like, you guys got someone spinning here or what? I thought you just show up and go, give me this, give me that, and you bounce. But it looked like the spot, you know what I mean? So I'm going to probably go back there and do a field trip. You know, hey, I'm a beginner. What's the deal here? Just to see what it's all like, because it caught my attention, man. It was flashy.
But you got to buy something, right? You can't just walk in and be a fool.
I might, yeah. I might go down the route of the space cake. I did that once in Amsterdam. Oh, man.
In Amsterdam?
Yeah.
When we were there?
No. When I went there with Matt Lucky.
I was going to say, our dad was on that trip.
In 2004, I went, and I had 2 space cakes. And, on top of like 6 Heinekens and a bunch of shots. Daniel Straus, I was jacked up, man. We were being taken to my buddy's house to sleep off, you know, get a quick nap in before we met 12 girls from Ireland, all dressed like French maids, because that was the theme of a bachelorette party. They go, you can't miss us. We want to hang later. They're the ones that actually led us to that establishment. And I don't smoke, so I didn't want to. I didn't mind that being my first time, but what I didn't want to do is do it and then start coughing and look like the beginner. Yeah. So I was like, well, I don't know. And they go, well, then how about a brownie? I go, okay. So I had that, and they I just didn't know when it was going to hit me. And so
that's the thing with edibles.
It surprised me, and I went through like a high and a low. And when I hit the high and I was all giggly and shit, I thought, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
So we were getting ready to go in a gentleman's club. Don't judge me. And we were getting ready to go into a gentleman's club, and I go, I got to have one more. This ain't enough, you know.
Right.
Took another one, ate it fast, downed it with a Heineken. Big mistake.
Been there.
In the middle of a lap dance, I was tripping, dude. I removed the girl. I thought she was robbing me, you know, like picking my pockets or something. And I was like, I got to get out of here. I just kicked the door down and got in a cab.
Paranoia.
Yeah, and guess what? Back to the girls. We fell asleep for a 2-hour nap. It turned into 12 hours of straight sleep. We woke up the next day at 8 a.m.
All the fun.
French made team?
French made team, yeah.
Hung them out to dry like that?
It was like April, but Holland is a little bit north. So when we got home, the sun was up.
Yeah.
Right? And we go, we're just going to lay down. So when we woke up and the sun was up, I thought, oh, yeah, where are the guys at, you know? Yeah. Feel pretty good. Just got a good nap in. Where are the guys at, you know? And then I started going, wait a minute. That's a lot brighter than I remembered it. And it hit me that I slept through the whole night.
Didn't read the warning, the warning label.
Man, I couldn't believe it, dude. We blew it. Those, not all 12 were, you know, they were just a cool bunch, you know, and it would have been a fun time. This is like, I went with Lucky in 2004.
Yeah. I'm already on edge, though, when I'm overseas in another country. I just don't want to be that one idiot that gets thrown in jail for something stupid.
Yeah, well, luckily that's one of those drugs that I think mellows you. You know, it doesn't really make you. If anything, I think alcohol's worse.
Yeah.
Josh, you got a story?
Do, and any chance to throw R.J. Clifford under the bus, I'm happy to. So R.J. Clifford, of course, hosts MMA Tonight, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 6 to 8 Eastern on the channel. And there was one day, I was out for this, unfortunately, so I missed, this is all secondhand, I missed the action when it happened, but I get a frantic text from Gabby that RJ's not hosting the show that evening, and I'm like, all right, I hope everything's okay. And hours later, I get this call from R.J. Clifford, and this is what happens, piggybacking off your story, George. So, comes home one day, house is empty, looks in the fridge, sees some cookies. Hey, I'll have an afternoon snack. Eats a cookie. And then apparently on the show call, he was unable to speak. After the show call, he's in a panic because he cannot function, has to withdraw from the show that evening, and later discovers that he had inadvertently had one of his wife's weed cookies.
Wow.
And he thought it was a regular cookie, ended up having a full cookie when you're only supposed to have a little bit. And, he missed a show due to accidental cookie ingestion.
Yeah, and I was tripping as well. When we took that cab home, before we came home and said we're going to sleep for 2 hours, I was telling my buddy my heart's racing and I want to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
And he goes, "You're going to be all right, bro." I think it was just anxiety because I didn't know what to feel.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said,
But I just remember thinking, this isn't good. But then when I would mellow out, I was like, yeah, I'm chilling.
Yeah.
So I just regret missing that whole night. That night was actually called Queen's Day, which is the equivalent of like a Mardi Gras.
Okay.
It's the Queen of Holland. Her birthday's the 30th of April. The 29th is just a big day. So actually it's celebrated like a Mardi Gras style, but it's really like a little bit of a 4th of July maybe, you know? So it was just supposed to be a massive day where all the canals in Amsterdam, everybody's just partying and having a good time, and I fucking blew it. To this day, I regret that.
But is there like a celebrity or a fighter that can bring you out of retirement where you go like, I can't pass it up with this dude? Like we were at the Santana concert the other night. If that fool tells you to smoke a joint, you got to do it, right?
Yeah, I'll do that. But first I got to learn how to do it so I just don't make a fool of myself. So if somebody just goes, here's the space cake, I'll do that. But otherwise, I don't know. I was in a room with the Mindrick crew. You know, they don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
We know they're all about it. And they were in Sacramento, and everyone's just like, there's this big old balloon and smoking this. And I'm like, I wouldn't know where to start. Hold it, breathe, don't breathe, inhale it. I don't know. Yeah. So I was like, rather than do that, I'll just drink my Heineken, you know, and just not make a fool of myself. But I guess I'd have to go and say, all right, what are we doing here? And get those jitters out first, and then figure it out.
Daniel Straus,
don't worry about it. I'm a cougher too.
Are you really?
Yeah, I cough. I have small lungs.
Okay.
So.
Do you ever run into celebrities and just kind of get wowed a little bit? You ever do something because of that? Get in their world? When we see fighters, we want to take a liver shot or something, right?
I'm just usually quiet. Like, if I like you and I'm a fan of you, I want to say what's up, or I might want to meet you, but I just kind of just
chill.
So I guess to answer your question, like a Snoop, if you were to say, you want to blaze up, dog, you know, or whatever, I'd be like, let's do this.
Okay.
Because I'm a West Coast guy.
I would smoke with Snoop.
Yeah.
I would smoke with Snoop.
But I don't know. How about you?
For the right celebrity, I would do it.
Yeah. Or Stitch. Yeah, that was a good one.
For Stitch?
It was really, you wouldn't?
Nah.
No? Okay.
He'd forgive me.
Amsterdam is just kind of like, we were about 4 years removed from the movie Pulp Fiction, but that movie Pulp Fiction brought that to light, that just how legal it is, you know, and you can do it, and no repercussions, nobody judging you.
See,
I've
never been over to Amsterdam.
You never been to Amsterdam?
Not yet.
You never done some Dutch kickboxing training or nothing?
Not yet. Want to, though. But I haven't got over there yet. So.
All right.
That's in the future. I'm going to try to get over there.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, again, if you want to call in about Nick Diaz or have a question for Daniel or just want to chat about UFC 234, it does take place on Saturday for us, Sunday for them. So don't get confused. Don't get it twisted. It's the regular start time of 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific for the pay-per-view for us in North America. Adjust from there. Anyone that's in Melbourne, Australia, it'll be like Sunday at 10 a.m. or something like that. So the athletes are going to be performing at a different time that they're used to. But that's why they go 10 days early to figure that out. And, of course, you all know that Robert Whittaker will be facing Kelvin Gastelum in the main event. The co-main event is Israel Adesanya versus the legend himself, Anderson Silva. So I'm sure we'll discuss that at some point, maybe get Daniel's thoughts on that fight. But circling back to you, I got it right? December 2017, you had the accident.
Yeah. December 17th.
Yeah. And so that's what you're recovering from, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. When you were talking about your neck earlier. And can you update us on that?
Yeah. So, again, went through the accident. What was going on was through my spinal cord, I had swelling blocking passage on my spinal fluid. So that was shutting down a lot of movement on my right side and, my nerves and all that stuff. So rehabbing that, I rehabbed that for about a year. and that's what got me out here and able to, pass my neurological tests, my physicals, and everything, and be able to get cleared. So.
And you were told, I still remember the doctor saying you would never even walk again.
Yeah, dude was a dick.
And I saw you at Extreme Couture, walking into a practice.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I don't walk the same, I can tell you that, but I'm walking, you know what I mean? Yeah, the first thing going in, I remember is being on a stretcher and coming through and like, all right, we're going to do the surgery. And I'm like, yo, can't do a surgery, I fight, you know what I mean? Like, we got to do something else, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, oh, you're not, you don't have to worry about that. You're not, if we don't do the surgery, you're not walking. I'm like, fuck you, you know what I mean? And at the, I don't, Paulina, Perfecting Athletes, Paulina, Michelle. And I kept telling the doctor, like, yo, I need you all to contact them, see what they got to say, and we'll go from there. And, that's actually how it all kind of started, getting rolling.
So the surgery wasn't to help you walk? What was the surgery
No, I
for?
needed a fusion. Between my C4, C5, and C6, it's really bad in there. So I have spinal stenosis in one area, I have a bulging disc in one area, and I have like some deteriorating something. So in that part of my neck, they wanted to go in, take some out, cut it out, and fuse those. I think my C4 and C6, they wanted to fuse together, something like that. Not entirely sure, but yeah, they wanted to go in, fuse that. And the problem with that, I wouldn't be able to move my neck, left and right. So really, there's only a few guys that's had that I know of that's had like fusions and been able to come through and continue to fight. But so I didn't really want the fusion. I wanted to try to get everything done without getting cut up. I had just spent you got to remember I had just spent a year and a half with the hand. And in my eyes, it was, if you can just battle back, you can be back in 6 months, not knowing how, bad of an accident it was, but or injury it was, but that's all that was on my mind. So
that initial talk from that doctor, did you take it as, because doctors can be wrong,
yeah,
but then sometimes doctors they're kind of dicks. They just seem like they didn't really pay too much attention, and they just kind of give you an answer. What did it feel like from him?
Yeah, it was more that was going on, and the whole time that I was out in Florida, that was mostly what was going on. I had people that never really understood, the level of my injury and what I do, what I mean? So they see the injury, but they see it in 60 or 70-year-old men, or, someone that's been in, other incidents, where they never gave me a real clear, path to getting healthy and what I really should do. All they wanted to do was just surgery, you know what I mean? So for me, it was just like, look, I've dealt with this injury. I'm an athlete. I'm young, you know what I mean? Surgery, there has to be something other than just surgery. So that's why we took the steps to getting over to a NeuroFit and doing rehab and stuff like that.
Being in the shape that you're in, being a high-level athlete, do you believe that may have helped you? I've heard lots of times doctors say a regular guy could not go through this.
Yeah, that's what they told me.
You got some of them Wolverine genes?
Yeah. Boy. Yeah, if I don't think me being an athlete and me going through, a series of, workouts and exercises and wrestling all my life, that, my neck would still be holding on right now. I've been dropped on my head. I've been dropped on my neck. This accident obviously was serious, and the way I hit, so without the strength of being an athlete, it definitely helped. And,
I've always known you to be a positive guy. We've spoken to you after losses, and you've always had something positive to say. Being in that situation, though, your mind starts to race. There's all kinds of stuff. People are giving you information on this side, family are telling you other stuff, friends and family, all that. Were you able to kind of lock your emotions down at that time, or did you have one of those moments where you kind of just lose it?
I had a couple of those. You know what I mean? Like, actually, before, to be honest with you, before being cleared, that was my last time I was going to try. I tried throughout the year to try to get cleared, and even though I know I was rehabbing and getting better, I just didn't see it happening. You know what I mean? And I told myself, you know what, my career's done. You know, I've done what I need to do. I'm happy with where I'm at. I'm only going into this doctor to just for shits and giggles, and I got cleared. You know what I mean? So, I had tremendous ups and downs. You know, plenty of times where I'm like, you know what, I can't. It's not really for me to come back. But at the same time, there was just months where all I wanted to do was just fight, train and fight, train and fight. So it was like there's a mixture of, yeah, you can still do it, and you know what, this is something that everyone's saying that it's bad enough to stop you. Maybe you should stop. So, you know, it was just life, you know, the ups and downs of it. So you know me, like you said, I have something positive always. I'm not going to let that stop me. I'm not going to let other things stop me. So, you know, it is what it is.
Ooh, okay. You said you can't walk like you used to.
Yeah.
Will you be able to return to fighting? And do you know that already?
Oh, yeah. I
so
know
that
already.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I can still whoop ass like I used to. Believe that.
You can get to the level of being like you were a world champion?
Believe that. Yes.
How far are you away from that?
You know what? That's a good question. In my head, you know, I am at the bottom of the list, and I would love to prove myself, you know, to get back there and win a world title.
So you can't take a fight booking yet?
Oh, yes.
Oh, you can?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
yeah. Okay.
That's lining up right now to try to get a fight in March. And, you know, I don't have an opponent yet. But
so you can get through the camp? You passed those tests?
I'm in camp now, passing all tests. So, you know, I'm on that ass. You know me. I'm ready to go.
Man, that's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
For some reason, I was dreading the last 5 minutes when you said, I can't walk. I'll tell you the same. I'll tell you that much. I was like, oh, boy. I wonder if that means even though the neck's better, even though you're not paralyzed like you were at the time of the accident or told you were never going to walk again, did that mean that you know that you weren't going to be able to compete again? Man, that's great news, Daniel.
I mean, here's the thing. In all reality, there's changes to my body because, you know what I mean? It wasn't something that was a light tap and, oh, you'll be good in 6 months. You know, my body went through some shit. So there are, you know, differences in my bodies, but it isn't stopping me from, you know, fighting. It's not stopping me from getting down, getting hit, getting punched, getting slammed, getting up, you know what I mean? So my drive is there. My body can hold up to it, so I'm going to continue, you know what I mean? So that's all it was for me. If my body couldn't continue or hold up, then it's no reason for me to try to continue to do it. But even with, you know, with everything going on, it can hold up, so I will continue.
You've already had hard training sessions that resemble a fight where you have the live sparring and all that?
Yes, sir.
Nice.
Yes, sir. I've been ducked on my head since then, too. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it wasn't
Who
fun.
did that?
Yeah.
Did you give that person a look like, yo, dog?
Yeah, man. It wasn't, I don't think it was his fault. Just, you know, sometimes you get in scrambles.
Were you wrestling with The Undertaker or did you get tombstoned or what?
A little bit like that. But, yeah, we just in scrambles. And that's another part of it. Being able to be in scrambles and, you know, move certain way, I have to be able to still do that, you know, and all those are key. So I've passed all those tests mentally, physically, medically, you know what I mean?
Your range of motion?
Good.
Nice.
So, you know, I still have, again, like, you know, the neck that I had before.
Yeah.
I still have, you know, issues, have to go to the chiropractor and all that, get adjusted, stuff like that. But, yeah, I'm good, you know. Still working, you know, I'm still strengthening, I'm still rehabbing, but like I said before, I'm able to, you know, move forward now. You know.
I don't want you to go up to that doctor and give him the finger or curse him out, but I would like you to stop by his office and say, was it a young guy or an older guy?
It's an older guy.
All right, listen, old fella.
Yeah.
You may be on your way to checking out and retiring, and you've helped people all these years, but I think you jumped the gun here a little early. I was going to say, if it was a young guy, you could say, learn a lesson for the future. Say, I'm not here to confront you or anything, but you can't give up on the human spirit. You know what I mean?
Well,
Look at me. I can walk, and I'm going to be competing, or I've already competed, depending on when you see him. But I don't think you're too old to ever learn a lesson, you know?
Not at all. Not at all. This is, you know, it's been a huge lesson for me. So, you know, and at this game, I'm now having to learn all new shit from fighting. So, You know, it is never too late to learn. And a doctor, I haven't spoke to anybody about it. I haven't really, you know, once I said I was gonna to get better and I was gonna move forward, a lot of people said, you know, hey, it's not gonna happen. After that, I never really gave two fucks about it since then. I've just put my head down and worked. You know what I mean? Like, so I just, you know, like I said, I've had ups and downs, but from the time the accidents happened, I've just put my head down and worked. At times I didn't feel like I'd get here, but the times I knew that I would get here, I just went for it. You know what I mean?
It's crazy, man. So. All right, this is Daniel Straus, the Bellator, former Bellator heavy featherweight champion, two-time featherweight champion. He's our guest here. He's our guest co-host, and we're gonna take a break. And when we come back, we got a little bit of more news to cover, including kind of retreading yesterday. DC and Stipe, they kind of been butting heads a little bit. I mean, not like too bad, but still. Obviously, Stipe wants a rematch. Daniel Cormier replied. Stipe replied back. So we'll tell you all about that when we come back. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation, Channel 93.
Bringing you closer to the fight than the ring announcer gets. This is your
For being too loud and...
All right, Daniel Straus, Bellator featherweight, two-time featherweight champion, in studio, hanging out with us. Oh, we'll be talking to Paul Felder towards the end of the show as well. UFC lightweight, he's got a big fight coming up against yesterday's guest, James Vick. So excited to talk about him as well. But in between, we can cover the news, latest news. Keep talking to Daniel about his comeback, which is roughly slated for the spring of 2019. Got some big fights down in Australia this weekend as well. I think. I know Bellator's got back-to-back weekends, so definitely lots to talk about there. I think the NBA trading deadline is tomorrow, and our Lakers goes, stuff's going down. Like, we look like fools because we're literally dangling all the young guys going, we'll give you all them for Anthony Davis, and the Pelicans haven't bit. So now the young guys are, like, trying to get rid of us, huh? And I think there's going to be a rift between maybe LeBron and those guys, or maybe LeBron, and I don't know. I don't know if we can come back from that, man. We'll see. And it sucks because at one point, the Lakers, who didn't even make the playoffs last year, were the number 4 ranked team in the Western Conference. Now we're out of the playoffs. I mean, we're positioned to be out of the playoffs. We could still make a comeback. LeBron is back. He missed like a dozen games, and that's kind of what started our downfall. But now we got all this. I can't wait to get to the NBA All-Star break, regroup, and see if they can make a push. I really want them to make the playoffs because that's how you take those next steps. But I'm telling you, that trade, I guess stuff just can't be kept in-house anymore.
Yeah.
All the writers, all the reporters find stuff out.
They make it a little worse, too.
They do, man. And younger athletes are softer. Sorry. I'm going to say it. They're softer. They get really emotional. They get their feelings hurt over anything. And they forget that it is technically a business. But still, man, this thing's just been going on and on. Look, either you have a trade or not. And plus, aren't we giving away too much?
Yeah.
Like Ingram,
we're giving away
Ball,
all our youth.
Kuzma, 4 first-round draft picks. What the fuck,
man? We're basically saying, let's be good for the next 3 years, and then after that, we'll deal with it.
Is that? I mean, I know Anthony Davis is good, but I didn't think he was that good that we give all that away, man.
Yeah, I think he's that good, but I don't want to put.
Well, what are you going to play, 2 on 5? Or we're not going to have any money left for anybody else.
Yeah.
And then we got to redraft again. I don't want to do that shit, man. Anyways, all right, it's not NBA radio, so we'll get back to some mixed martial arts. DC and Stipe Miocic. Did you see that Miocic video? I finally saw the Miocic video where he's got his young daughter, and he's putting her to sleep, and he's talking about how that moment when she was born changed his life, and, you know, he fights for her. But I think he was tugging on everybody's heartstrings a little bit to the point where at the end I was like, DC, you got to give him the shot, man. He's got his daughter. You know what I mean? And DC came firing back. DC put out a tweet. Well, first he teased it, and he said, y'all want to know why I'm not going to give him the shot? And, of course, people bit. Yeah, tell us why, you know. And he laid out his reasons.
3 of them, right?
3 reasons why he doesn't want to give Miocic's side. Well, first of all, go ahead.
Do you feel like they legit reasons, though? Like, do you honestly believe in those reasons?
Well, first he said, I don't know anyone's shit. That's what he directly said because Miocic said you owe it to him. But, yeah, let's go through those reasons. 1, he meaning Miocic, is being entitled, why have I fought since and he hasn't? He lost the fight. Is he still the champ? That's not really a reason, right? He's being entitled. I mean, yeah, any champ that loses his title wants the rematch. That's not really entitled. That's just kind of what a champion wants.
But you'll fight anyone if you feel like they're entitled if the money's there, right?
And plus, he's got a case. He's the champion who held the title or had the most title defenses. Therefore, he has the case to say, hey, you know, I was regarded as one of the best ever because I had some title defenses. Anyway. The next reason is, I'm hurt. That's a pretty good reason.
Yeah.
I just can't fight you. I'm hurt. You know what I mean? Reason number 3 is, how do I do it better? I beat him in a round last time. He's right, but that's not what Miocic is saying. Miocic just saying, I'm the most decorated champion ever. You owe it to me. Like, Derek Lewis wasn't really the clear-cut number one. Or was he?
At the time.
Maybe. I mean, I guess. But he had that boo-boo fight with Ngannou. He did beat Volkov. Maybe. But so Miocic says, I was healthy. It could have been me. You see what I'm saying? And they kind of sidetracked that, and he fought Derek Lewis. When Miocic says he was ready, that's what they're saying. I don't know. But where do you sit? What's T-shirt are you wearing? Like, remember Jennifer Aniston, Angelina Jolie? Are you Team Cormier, Team Miocic
I think mine's Team Cormier only because he just beat him. You know, there's no more clear-cut reason than he just beat him. And I feel like because he came from light heavyweight, he took on heavyweights where it's not like other weight classes where you're going 5 pounds, you know, maybe 10 pounds here and there. He went up to heavyweight. That's a big challenge. Granted, he's fought heavyweight before. He won the title. He's at the end of his career where I feel like he just has the right to just say, look, guys, I've done a lot for the company. I've put on some great fights. I have one left. Let me go out the way I want to go out. Because he did beat one of the greatest heavyweight champions ever, right? So I think he does have the right to kind of do that. I get where Stipe Miocic is coming from, but I think he could have laid the groundwork for that right away after the loss. And I think he kind of took some time away and just – I think that's what Daniel means by entitled is I think he's just saying now all of a sudden when you want it, it has to happen. Remember the night of the press conference? He didn't really say too much. I think other fighters would have been like, man, I can't wait to fight this guy again. I want this guy right away. He just kind of let things go that night.
So he blew his chance a little bit.
I think so.
What do you think, Ohio guy? You going to side with
That's fair. That's fair that you say that.
You going to side with Stipe over there? Or?
But I kind of want to see Stipe fight him again.
Yeah?
I mean, not taking anything from DC. He's an incredible fighter, incredible champ, you know. But I definitely want to see that fight. I thought it was a great fight. I mean, I didn't expect him to come through and lay him out like that either. And, you know, DC has done waves for the sport as well, you know. And, you know, me personally, I would love to see that fight again.
You know what? If he would have beat Stipe by decision, I think there's a part of him that might have said, okay, maybe this time, since people don't believe I can do this again, I'm going to finish him this time. But because he finished him in the first round, I really think he's thinking, I can't do any better than I did the first time, and I don't have anything to prove anyone. So I just want to make money and fight Brock Lesnar. I'm with Daniel. I'd rather see him fight Stipe because I do think if those guys fought 10 times, he's not going to sweep the whole thing, right? I mean, they're going to go. They're both really good fighters. So I'd want to see it, but I get where he's coming from, where he's just thinking, there's no way I'm going to do it any better, and it's probably for less money.
Well, we discussed this on a recent daily debate, but I'll bring it up again. I just feel like when Lesnar came into the octagon, they had a moment. And at that moment, everybody left the arena going, man, I got to see Cormier and Lesnar. Right. Just because he kind of stole all of Miocic and the rest of the heavyweights division's thunder. And trust me, we're all aware that Lesnar hasn't fought in a long time, much less won in a long time. You can't count the Hunt win because it was overturned. So he wasn't deserving. But we're all conditioned, especially us hardcore fans, to know everyone's just seeing dollar signs. You know what I mean? We're going, yeah, that's it. That's the fight. Then we get home and say, wait a minute. He still has to serve out a little bit of that USADA suspension, not till January. But DC says, I hurt my hand. All right, maybe the timing works where your hand comes back. Lesnar serves out, you know, gets the testing done. You guys have a big fight. You sail off into the sunset. Big payday for DC because if you fight Lesnar, it's $1 million pay-per-view. But what are we in now? February. What fight has not been announced? DC versus Lesnar. DC still telling us is hurt. We just went to the Royal Rumble and Lesnar was not beaten that night. Something tells me he's headed to April's WrestleMania. So are we looking at the summer of 2019 before we can see another title defended? Man, if DC can come back sooner and he can squeeze in Miocic, I think I'd rather see that one.
He may lose out on the opportunity for the other one.
You're right, but
this is like cross promotion in a way.
It's a risky fight every time you walk in there. You know what I mean? Maybe, but what are we all gonna just sit around for Lesnar forever? I mean, just look. I love DC. I'm a fan of DC, but at some point, I can only, like, when people call into the show, like Marco from Waco or whoever else, and they ask me, I can only lie through my teeth so much and say, Lesnar deserves it, before people start giving me that look like, bitch, you don't just, you know what I mean? I can only lie a certain amount of time before I go, yeah, I don't know. I just saw him at the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. I don't know. I'm running out of excuses. I got to be able to tell them, in this goddamn sport, the best fight the best, and this is what happened. This guy earned a shot, blah, blah, blah. Miocic deserves that shot. So they either got to figure something out with DC and Lesnar to quell that and give Stipe Miocic another opponent, or throw Miocic in there. I mean, you know what I mean?
I think they already know. I don't look at it just from an MMA angle. Think of the pro wrestling angle. At WrestleMania, which a lot of people watch, I seriously doubt Brock Lesnar's going to lose that match. And at the end of the match, he's probably going to pick up the microphone and say something like, I just won this strap. Guess where I'm going next? I'm going to fight DC or whatever. And that's probably going to, that's all money, dude. Yeah, it really is. And I think that's the way the UFC's looking at it as, all right, we're going to have another guy. They're going to do the promotion for us. We're going to get all those wrestling guys that are going to go, we got to see that and tune in. You're right. He doesn't deserve it. But at this point, man, I mean, is it shocking?
I want to see Stipe Miocic pull a Nate Diaz and be like, Brock Lesnar, you took everything I earned, motherfucker.
Well, whatever. All I can do is rant about it and share my thoughts. But, I respect DC, and I do want him to get paid. He's a guy that's almost 40. He's ready to exit the sport. And if he can go off with a big payday, great, especially because he's a big pro wrestling fan, and you can just tell he geeked out when he got a chance to call out Brock Lesnar, and Lesnar came in and shoved him. That was heaven for a guy like that, you know what I mean? But that was July of 2018. Right now we're in February of 2019 with no announcement. Like, if you were to tell me, but don't forget they're fighting in April or May, then I go, yeah, all right, I guess it'll be 10 months by then, but at least there's something there. Now if I got to wait till April's WrestleMania and hope that there's an announcement that leads me to next July, I don't know. DC had told us the hand was recouping, and unless he's had a setback, I don't know. You've had a hand injury, so maybe there's been a setback. Who knows? All right, we got to take another break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM Fight Nation Channel 83. Stay close. We'll be right back, and we'll talk a little bit about Nick Diaz, again, who his buddy Gilbert Melendez has said, could be possibly done. He may have hung him up. And Anderson Silva, another legend, he fights on Saturday at UFC 234. We want to discuss, is the UFC mishandling some of these legends, some of these big stars? Because the UFC have gotten more out of them because they just really haven't fought much. They last fought in 2015, 4 years ago. It was January 2015. That's ridiculous. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. Our co-host for the show is Daniel Straus, former two-time featherweight champion at Bellator MMA. Now, real quick, we're going to talk to Marco in just a second, but guys, Silva and Diaz, what's the deal? Diaz may be retired. Let me start over. Diaz may be retired, according to Gilbert Melendez. Silva's got this fight versus Israel Adesanya. You know, they both fought in 2015 against each other. But since then, I think we only have the one fight from Silva versus Derek Brunson. And, like, I know there's been some PED allegation, or no, actually there's not just allegations, but he had to serve some time. But do you just feel like more could have been brought out of these guys before they in the position where they are now, where only one of them has a fight and the other one's just nowhere to be seen?
Yeah, that's the thing, is nowhere to be seen. But I think it's more us that bring him out. Like, if you leave it to Diaz himself, he doesn't really pop out and say, like, I'm coming back or I'm doing this and that. He just kind of does his own thing.
I mean, whatever the money is, can't they figure it out? Just get this guy fighting again?
But think about how much time's passed.
It's an investment for the UFC, because if he goes out there and does well, I mean, that pay-per-view will probably do well, and then the next one will do well. Like, why? You would think that at some point they can just figure it out.
I think it's like the same thing we were talking about with Amanda Nunes. I think we get caught in just assuming that, you know, these fighters just want to fight all the time. They're people too at the end of the day, and life changes you. Life changes circumstances, and you can have crazy ones where you can have a life-changing circumstance, and the man is so determined, he will make his way back. But you can also have opposites where maybe things you wouldn't think will change someone's mind. We've seen change other fighters' mind to maybe not wanting to fight. It's a mixed bag.
Anderson Silva is called out the UFC for using the legends to promote the younger fighters. But that's kind of how it works. You know what I mean? Somebody like Chris Lieben was the veteran when he said, yeah, I'll fight Anderson Silva. And then Anderson Silva tuned him up and became a star that night. I still remember him doing that little bossa nova dance or whatever. That shouldn't really be too foreign to him. Otherwise, you can take two streaking young guys and match them up, but that's not what you want. You usually want those guys streaking towards the top. I don't know.
Sorry to interrupt, just to add to your point, George. We were talking about Mike Tyson archetypes last week, and I kind of leave Anderson Silva off of that, or even like a John Jones. It feels like kind of a different level of greatness, and I would almost compare it to Muhammad Ali. But with what you just said, it almost feels like we're watching Muhammad. I wasn't around to watch Muhammad Ali's later career, but I guess this is the closest our generation might feel like to that, what we might see.
Yeah. I mean, look, it makes sense sometimes, but he shouldn't think that they're out of line for doing it, because we always say, hey, look, so Joe Blow is 8-0. He's been wiping everybody out on the regional scene, but I wonder how you start to wonder, and then you get someone else that's 8-0, also debuting, and then they continue. Yeah, but how would he do against a top 20 guy? Give him a veteran. Give him a wrestler. Give him a top 10. Is he a contender? Give him a top 5 until we finally go, oh, shit, this guy's pretty good. But it's by fighting those fighters. And those guys that are usually at the top are usually older fighters, and they're either hanging on to their spot or starting to fall down as the others rise.
And I think you get that with all the fighters that are at that spot, coming down or probably walking away from their career soon. You want to go out on the top knowing that you're the top, and that's when these organizations use us, you know what I mean, or use them for, like you said, these young guys that are coming in and need to make a name and be the face of the organization.
Plus, he gets a title shot if he beats him.
Right.
Anderson's sitting pretty, and it's a guy that he doesn't have to worry about, oh, my God, am I going to get taken down? That guy wants to strike, too. He just happens to be a pretty badass striker. But we'll find out on Saturday night how that unfolds. Marco, hang with us. It's just a quick 60-second break, and then we'll be right back. We'll start off with Marco, and then we'll crank out some Bellator talk, because things are starting to get heated out there in Uncasville between MVP and Paul Daly. I can't wait to see that one as well. Stay close. We'll be right back.
forced them to retire undefeated from MMA with a record of 0-0-0. They are Gorgeous George and Goes. And this is MMA Junkie Radio.
All right, let's take this call here from Marco from Waco, Texas. And if you want to follow Marco, it's 877-FIGHT-93. Doesn't get any easier. 877-FIGHT-93. And for those of you that went to public school, FIGHT is F-I-G-H-T. FIGHT-93. All right, Marco from Waco, how you doing, brother?
Marco from Waco, que pasa, vatos, and Daniel Wolverine Straus, man. You're killing like an X-Men.
Yeah. What's up, brother?
Yeah. So let me get some things on my chest. Nick Diaz, man. What was the whole point of fighting the NSAC about the marijuana suspension if you're not going to fight anyway? You wasted all that money on freaking lawyers, man. What the fuck? Whatever, Nick Diaz.
Really?
On a Stipe, dude. Yeah, Stipe Miocic. You didn't reach a rebuttal to DC about entitlement. He told DC, my entitled ass offered to fight at UFC 228, and while you were fighting Derek Lewis, I was fighting fire. A pretty good comeback, man.
It was a pretty good comeback. He's a full-time firefighter, for those that don't know, out in Ohio. And he said, yeah, while you chose to fight Derek Lewis, I was fighting fires. And we all know, especially in California, I'm not sure about Ohio, but a lot of this country was ravaged with fire. So much respect to anybody who, you know, has that career. Very dangerous. We applaud you. But, yeah, there you go. And it was a pretty good zinger, but, you know, so which one was it? You were ready to fight, or were you fighting the fires? I don't know. Like, I wasn't as impressed as others. I thought it was a good comeback, but I didn't think, oh my God, mic drop. Right. Nothing like that.
Yeah, well, that's it. Instead of wiping and crying about getting the fight with DC, because now you're looking a little desperate, Stipe, you should have been the main event with Cain Velasquez next week live on ESPN, and after beating Cain Velasquez, calling out DC saying, I just beat your body and I'm coming after you. Missed opportunity, Stipe. Missed opportunity. Peace out.
That was a great call. That was a great call, Marco. And I don't know what he did, but I was able to understand him better than I have in the last 2 months.
He talked a little slower.
A little slower, and I think he didn't do the speakerphone route, right?
Probably.
He even gave me his own version of the Dan Tom, yeah.
That was pretty sharp, wasn't it, his call?
Yeah.
He said, fight Cain Velasquez and try and lure Daniel Cormier by saying, I just beat up your teammate, get some, you know, or whatever.
It's a fantasy matchup for heavyweight.
I wonder if that was available to him. You know, maybe that was, maybe that wasn't. Who knows? Because Stipe can only play that hand for so long where he says, I'm going to wait for the champion. I'm going to wait for the champion. You know, you can do that for so long, and then after a while it's like, they're moving on without you. So Colby Covington just kind of, your teammate just kind of fell for that one. You know what I mean?
They sent him for the whoop-de-doo.
Yeah. Well, is he your boy? Or like you guys have been at that gym for a long time, but I know that sometimes there's a little bit of division. Or
I mean, I know Kobe. I mean, we ain't like best friends or anything like that. You know, he's doing his thing to try to.
Do the Brazilians like him?
You know, I haven't been there, and it's been probably 2 years since I've been.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because, yeah, been probably about 2 years.
Wow, time flies.
Yeah. What did I miss? Was there
left, went to Henry's.
Henry's, yeah, that's right.
And then had a fight there. Then had my accident.
Okay.
Year went on.
Was there a falling out, or just
No.
you wanted a new look?
Yeah. No, there was no falling out at all. I just, you know, wanted a different change, a new look at things, and just try to keep growing, you know. So.
How far are those gyms apart anyway? Half hour?
Not even.
Wow.
Not even. Like 10 minutes on a slow traffic day.
Oh, wow.
So.
Okay. Yeah. Where was I?
Well, before that, we were talking about Cormier.
Oh, yeah, Miocic, I think we kind of gave our thoughts there.
Well, okay. Do you think the fight was offered to him, to Stipe?
Probably. I mean, he's a name.
So then we got to take
I'm sure he's been playing a little bit of the delay game, trying to, you know. But I don't blame him. I mean, if Lesnar's not ready to go, I mean, there was something was going to happen in July, we thought. And so he's piping up at the right time. I don't blame him for doing it, but you're right. I know he had a contract holdout for a while. Remember that?
Yeah. So
it could be that. See, the UFC, they keep score.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And then when things circle around, hey, well, guess who's wanting something from us now? And then they get you. You know what I mean? And the thing with Diaz, Silva, Stipe, Miocic. What you don't have is time.
Yeah.
You can't turn back the clock. No. And the UFC, it took them a while. At first, they were like, Tito Ortiz, please, you got to fight, man. Yeah. You know what I mean? That was 15 years ago. Now they got a star known as the 3 letters, the UFC, that they don't wait for anybody.
Right.
You want to retire? Go ahead. Thanks, Ronda, for the time. Conor, you want to sit out 2 years? Cool. Lesnar, you want to return to pro wrestling? All right. Jones, you're getting in trouble? Let us know when you're out of trouble. Right. And they just keep chugging along. You know what I mean? And they can do that now feeling confident. They'll just keep putting on shows. A new star will be born or new stars will be born. And the fighters just, at some point, they tuck their tail between their legs and come back and say, I want to play again. Yeah. But Bellator doesn't create that culture, right? Or have you ever felt a freeze out there? I know some people have said unpleasant things about Bjorn, and you've been part of 2 regimes.
Yeah. Like you said earlier, it's a business, you know, and it took me a long time to actually realize that it's a business, you know what I mean? And there were some times I was unhappy with some of the choices that they made and, you know, things that I had to do for the company, but then, you know, later on it's like, fuck, this is a business. They're going to do what is going to make them money and what profits them. They don't, you know, yeah, they care about, you know, their fighters, but they don't give a fuck, you know what I mean? It's what makes money for them, grows the business. So, you know, at some point, you know, once you're in the sport long enough and you realize that, then you have to play that business. You have to make it good for not just the fans, but for the fucking business. So if you can make it good for the fans and the business, you're a winner.
Has it ever circled back and you ever received the benefit of just a kind act from Bellator that you weren't expecting?
Yeah, plenty.
Oh, no
plenty.
shit?
Yeah, plenty.
Can you share a couple?
Yeah, me being injured. You know, they haven't released me. They haven't. You know, there's times where I was down bad, and they, you know, helped me out.
Oh, nice.
You know,
old regime, new regime.
No.
Nice.
You know, and you know, my physical therapy. You know, I was fucked. Couldn't pay that. You know, they didn't tell me, you know, hurry up. They didn't. Hey, get better. You know, we're here when you get better. So. Big shout out to them, you know. Big shout out to Scott and
cool. That's good to hear.
All of those guys. So yeah, that's why I've never, you know, people have always asked me, why don't you know, jump ship? No, I love those guys. They are family to me. So
I'm glad I asked. I got to give myself a shout out. Yeah. Shout out to Gorgeous George. All right. In the commercial, you were telling us a story that we said we got to save this baby because it sounded good. Actually, he didn't even tell us one word of it, but he made it sound so good that we waited.
Perked up.
He perked up. He said, "Oh, I got something." Was it Concho, Oklahoma, or was it Yuma, Arizona?
It was Yuma, Arizona.
All right, what happened here?
So,
wait, let me set it up. I think we just asked, well, you know, wherever you fought. We were talking about Thackerville, or whatever. And as I was looking, I noticed you had fought in Yuma, Arizona, and I remember that was an outdoor show. I thought it was probably about 180 degrees.
Yeah.
And I could have sworn I heard fighters saying the canvas was burning their feet at one point. But go ahead.
So, yeah, for those that don't know, it was outside. It was Yuma. It's hot as fuck. And I remember I'm in the back, and, you know, I haven't been outside yet, so I don't know how hot or, you know, anything. And I'm warming up in the back, and every so often there's this guy that comes in. He's just like, oh, it's so hot. And I'm like,
who was it? Like a Bellator employee?
It was a fighter.
Oh.
Now, at first I didn't know who it was. And, you know,
are you going to release his name, or did he have a mask on?
Never knew his name.
Okay.
Never knew his name. So
thought you were looking out for a home.
Yeah,
all right, go ahead.
Like, you know, back there just warming up. And my coach at the time, we're big on just mental. Hey, block that shit out. You know, it's not as hot as you think it is. Cool. Warming up some more. Guy comes in. Oh, it's so hot. And I'm like, who the fuck is this guy?
I'm going to do research while you keep talking.
Come to find out, whatever it was one of the guys that lost. Okay. So
we're narrowing it down.
So I tell my coach, like, yo, is it, like, how bad is it out there? He's like, oh, it's not that bad. And sure enough, guy comes in 5 minutes later. Oh, it's so hot. And when he comes in, I'm pissed off at this point because I'm trying to block out, like, how hot it is outside to just focus on, yo, get out there, get it done, you know. Yeah. Whatever. And as I go to cuss this guy out, I'm like, yo, shut the fuck up, you know, get out of here, you lost, whatever. Guy comes in and he's like, the look on his face was just like terror. I'm like, damn, what the fuck? And as he walks by, I looked at his back, and it was nothing but a huge blister from where he had got taken down on the mat and just laid on the mat the whole.
That was the guy saying, "Oh, it's hot."
No, it was the guy that just came out the
okay.
cage. So for me, I was just like, well, fuck this shit. This is not gonna happen for me. Went out there. I ended up. What did I do? I choked him out.
You defeated Kenny Foster via submission, guillotine choke.
Yeah. So it was
round 3.
Yeah. I remember hitting.
You weren't in a hurry.
Yeah, I was.
For that,
well, I was not trying to get on. By the time I went out there, it was. Slowly, it went on into the night, so it was slowly getting cooler, but it was hot. It was still, the mat they had back then was just terrible.
So
trash.
the blister fucked up that guy's back, huh?
Blister fucked up everything. My mom was set on taking him down and beating him up, and I seen this guy's back, and I'm just like, yo, striking. We are striking from there. So yeah, this guy running in and out, screaming how hot it was, did it for me.
Did you at least go back to the guy and go, my bad, dog, after you saw the blister?
I was still pissed. I was just
really?
Because I was trying to block it out. The whole time I'm just like, it's not that hot.
All right, so let me see. You don't have to say it if you don't want to, but I'm going to say all the names.
Okay.
And if you actually remember who it was, then you can actually go through the process of deciding if you want to sell him out or not, all right?
We go.
There was Brendan Tierney defeated Dan O'More. Michael Parker defeated Nick Piedmont. Anthony Burchek defeated Tyler Bielecki. Rudy Aguilar defeated Carlos Flores. Daniel Mason Straus. Didn't know your nickname was Mason. Or middle name.
Last name.
Mason Straus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Hyphenated.
Defeated Kenny Foster. Zach McCoskey defeated Chad Robinshaw.
Yeah, it was before all these. So
and Wilson Hastings.
Whoever this
Carlos, like a local guy?
Yeah.
Oh, you think it's maybe Carlos?
Carlos, you sound like you're the guy that was.
Okay, these were heavyweights. Do you remember it being a big dude?
It was a smaller guy, so maybe not.
So it wasn't Carlos.
Let's go to a smaller guy.
Tyler Bielecki.
Sounds like the guy.
Yeah.
He sounds like the guy to me.
He was a bantamweight.
Yeah. Oh, that is definitely him.
That's him?
Yeah. That has to be him.
Nick Piedmont was a featherweight.
Yeah, Piedmont. I don't know. Yeah, he doesn't sound like a guy. Piedmont sounds like he can.
Yuma, Arizona.
Fuck that place.
I remember
they took some of the officials, Bellator officials, I can't remember who it was, took my passport and stuff because I wanted to go over the border right there. I've never been to Mexico. I'm like, oh, Mexico, it's right down the street. Let's go. You can't go down there.
They took your passport because they thought you might do it?
Oh, yeah. And then.
Would you have done it?
Oh, yeah. I didn't know. I was just like, fuck it. I can go to Mexico and be back.
Have you ever been to Mexico?
Never been to Mexico.
Not even like Cancun or nothing?
Nah. That's the reason why I was like, oh, I'm going. Like, nah. No, you're not. So. Yeah.
See how we look? We don't even go to Mexico.
Don't even go?
Nope.
Fuck that, huh?
No, it's the Wild West right now.
Yeah.
I mean, Cancun, yeah. Cabo San Lucas, probably. But then, I don't know about the border towns. Yeah.
I hear it's kind of.
Yeah, it is. But that wall's coming. And Mexico's going to pay for it. All right, what now? We have a call?
Yeah, we have Kendra from Humboldt.
Kendra from Humboldt. All right. She must have heard the marijuana talk. What's up, Kendra? How you doing?
How in the world did you know?
I had a feeling. I know you Northerners. NorCalers.
I know. Of course. Well, and having met Daniel Straus back in Sacramento, it's really nice to have you in studio.
I forgot about that.
I've been following your career.
That's right. We took that picture with you and John Jones, and we had all eaten our In-N-Out burgers that night.
Hey, looking at me when you say that.
I have a picture at the top of my stairs that has that picture, and the twins always want to know, okay, who's that Daniel? Who's that John? Who's that George? And my son says, George, not nice.
Oh,
what did I do?
I have no idea.
George, not nice.
Anyway.
I'm probably the nicest guy out of the three you mentioned.
You must be mean mugging in the picture.
I'm nice.
Maybe
sometimes.
I'm mean mugging or something, but I don't know. I'm okay. Maybe
Daniel's
Daniel's nicer
an
than me.
Involved, so I could see you being like, "Hey, give me that burger.
Give me that second one."
Right.
All right, I'll take that one.
So, I've noticed, Daniel, that you have some sponsorship with a cannabis company. Yes. And I'm wondering, as you're touting the recovery effects of CBD, the non-psychedelic component of cannabis, have you noticed any shift in fan base or any changes with other sponsors?
I haven't really, to be honest with you. You know, I'm just out there telling people my experiences with it. You know, I'm working with Flavor X, and no new people have came. I have had a lot of people, you know, inbox me, you know, different questions, you know, how it helps me, how it's helped my recovery, how do I use it, things like that, which best ways do I like to use it. But as far as the fan base follow me because I haven't, you know, noticed that, or new sponsorships or anything like that. Nothing's knocked on my door or anything. But if y'all out there and hear me, holla at me. I'm here. Yeah, I would love it to. You know, I think more people need to just kind of, you know, be more open about the, you know, just the healthy market of the non-psychedelic, you know, I don't know, just the, you know, way that we treat our bodies and beat our bodies up, the things that are helping us, you know, we need more advocate people for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And what I love about... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no. Please go ahead, Kendra.
I was going to say, knowing the benefits of CBD and THC, because both of them can act to combat pain and fatigue and anxiety and musculoskeletal issues. It's definitely got to be hard when people are asking you for input on how it works for you and what you'd recommend, because it's really individual.
Right.
But I absolutely appreciate the fact that you are out there and open and providing this information, because a lot of us fans, we've either been exposed or maybe we've been exposed negatively and have some connotations of marijuana or cannabis that we don't realize it's so effective.
Right.
Well, can I ask a question? Muscular skeletal, what are the benefits there? That seems like broad, but can you narrow it down? What's happening there?
So if we're talking about CBD specifically, and that's the kind of cannabis or even hemp that doesn't provide the high, the quote-unquote high of cannabis or marijuana, it can help with pain and recovery of muscle tissue, your aches and pains, joint swelling and inflammation.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the other one was fatigue. I feel fatigued. What does it do about fatigue? I thought it'd be making me more lazy.
It completely depends on the terpenes and the strain. I mean, there are terpenes like limonene that are very activating and awakening. So if you are dealing with depression or tiredness, that might be a strain.
Does that make my heart race?
That you're looking for. Pardon?
Does that make my heart race? Is it like a cup of coffee? Like that type of energy boost?
Not on the CBD side. I mean, if you take too much cannabis, whether you're inhaling it or eating it, those are probably the more intense ways of consuming cannabis. It can have some of those side effects. And really getting high is technically a side effect. It's just a side effect that a lot of people like.
Man, I learned about that sativa strain in Amsterdam. I didn't get to chime in earlier, but I actually did the opposite of George. I wasn't afraid to look dumb. I was like, well, if I'm going to learn anywhere, I might as well learn some by myself over on the other country side of the world. But
did you go to the Bulldog?
I don't know about no, not the Bulldog, but they told me to smoke this stuff called lemon or something, or lemon haze. I think I still remember the name. And before I go on my bike ride in the morning, because I rented a bike when I was there, it was the most fun bike ride I ever been on. And somehow I ended up at the Heineken factory and probably ended up like old George here and ended up putting down one too many. But not to sidetrack too much. By the way, Hendra, I got to apologize. To Mike, he recommended me a documentary of what you're talking about from the county you live in, Humboldt County, and I believe it's on streaming on Netflix. For people that want, have you seen? You know what I'm talking about, Daniel? Have you seen it?
Murder Mountain.
Murder Mountain.
What the fuck? I'm late to the party here.
I'm late too. I'm late too.
Like
I've
been
signed it.
Episodes, but dude.
You see the look they put?
Quick.
They looked at it like, oh,
it was
fucking
awesome.
best thing ever. Neither one of them told me about it.
Now I really got to take my medicine here, Kendra, to you. But I am on it. I have not forgotten, and that was a great call and great question, by the way. Kendra, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night, and thanks for coming in, Daniel.
Thank you.
Good to hear from you, Kendra. Say hello to Mike and the kids, except for that little boy. All right, we'll see you. Well, he doesn't like me either, right? We might as well start our beef now. What is he, 2 years old?
Something like that, yeah.
All right. All right. Another call. Who we got?
Ben from New Zealand.
Ben from New Zealand. What's up, Ben? How you been?
I've been pretty sweet, Gigi. Still waiting for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to have a loss. What is he, like 10 games in a row without Manchester United losing?
Yeah, he's 9-0-1.
Pretty crazy, eh? We were thinking, like, what should we get? Zinedine Zidane? Should we get Roy Keane?
I know. We may have found our guy.
And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is the job, man.
I was thinking Giggs. Now's his time to make the comeback, Zidane or whoever. And here he was, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, yeah, doing a great job. And everybody loves playing for him, too.
It's a great time to be a Manchester United fan. Hopefully this run just keeps on going. But what I actually rang to talk about was old Cormier and Stipe.
Okay.
And Stipe, if you're going to try and be as cheeky as Stipe is and try and get another shot off like a round one knockout loss, you've got to do it at a division like at the weak divisions like heavyweight or light heavyweight, right, where they give those things away. If you were trying to do that and you're in Daniel Straus's division at featherweight or lightweight, you would never get that chance.
Yeah,
that's very. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, doesn't it come down? I was thinking about this, guys, what we were talking about. Isn't it as simple as this? Can we pretend we're managers for a second? Okay, you're Stipe's manager, and they say you have the opportunity to fight Cain Velasquez, and if you win that, for sure they can't deny you. Which we've heard that before, and they have denied you. Wouldn't you say, I don't know, dog, that's kind of a tough matchup. It's very scary to take on a guy like Cain Velasquez, and then from there you got to get the title shot. Would you say maybe we chill and just try and finagle our way in there? And then if you look at the other way around and you say Daniel Cormier and they say, hey, Stipe wants to fight you, but we got this big payday with Brock. If you're his manager, wouldn't you say, I don't know, Doc, you just beat him. Seems like if you fight him again, that's a scary-ass man to fight 2 times. And if we lose that, then we don't get the Brock match. Isn't it as easy as that?
Yes, except for one thing. Go back to the first manager. If I'm telling Stipe all this, hey, man, Cain's dangerous. You never know. We might blow our shot. I think Stipe would have to pipe up, or the manager would go, however, at the same time, we're kind of in that doghouse with the UFC. You see what I'm saying? So maybe he has to realize, too, that he wasn't sitting pretty, and it's kind of evident by what we can see. But by the way, I don't know that's the case, but I always felt like that contract holdout, I just know the history of the UFC, and they're not fond of the athletes. So when they come back, it's you at some point in time have to pay. You have to pay the piper.
Yeah. I think that's all logical, but to be honest, I don't even think that Cain fight was even on the table, guys. I don't speculate or care to speculate on that kind of stuff much, but let's be honest, I don't think that matchup makes sense if you're trying to build an already weak division. It's not how the UFC traditionally match makes. The hardcores would love to see that match, but at this time,
the fights, that's the one I would want to see the most.
That's true, but you look at the timing, look at the style of matchmaking. Stipe was probably had his own battles with negotiations. I don't even think that was on the table. More relevant, I think, is what Ben is calling in and talking about, especially how Ben left off by saying featherweight and lightweight. Because I'm surprised with the earlier talk, nobody here mentioned Conor McGregor versus Jose Aldo. You want to talk about a guy deserving Jose Aldo from no matter what division, pound for pound. That dude is a bad dude. I'm sure you can agree. You fight in that division, you got to give that guy his respect.
But you brought him up.
He didn't get his
remember
chance.
Aldo had times where he'd butt heads. Oh, I want to get paid more, and he didn't fight as frequently. And maybe I'm thinking of retiring. So that's why when he got knocked out. I mean, look, he beat him in 13 seconds. It's not like anybody was clamoring for it. But he had built up a resume where he had these title defenses in this run, and he was the iconic star of 145 pounds. Yeah, you could kind of get past the 13 seconds and go, hell, let's run it back. These guys went on a 10-city tour. Let's just do it over again. Right. We know the second fight, Conor might still win, but he's not going to win in 13 seconds. Let's see how it plays out. But he probably wasn't going to get any favors because of that history, And yeah. I think, I don't know. They got a lot of killers in that division, so maybe
either way, it doesn't change the point we're trying to talk about for Stipe, where this is another lesson he could have learned from as far as this approach. If we're being critical here, I just can't help but bring that up for an example, like for anybody to be surprised that deserving is sadly doesn't mean the same thing. It should be.
Question: With seeing how these promotions, well, UFC takes back some of their promises, do you think it's still a good idea for fighters to give and take with these with the promotion? You know, why continue to do favors when you know on the back you're not going to get what you're being promised?
I think that's why they had such a trouble booking for January. I mean, January, like, you know, you guys mentioned it's a hard year to book for anyways, because, you know, that means a fighter has to go through Thanksgiving, and it's hard to negotiate that. But I think we saw that with that withdrawal, that card, and just the booking. I mean, even this card this weekend, it's a major pay-per-view. It's one of their, as you know, it's what a tentpole event is for Bellator, right? And there's guys on this card where it was like, I got 4 weeks notice, I got 6 weeks notice, and that's not typically a normal thing, especially for a UFC card. So I think that's a good point. That's something we talk about here is the leveraging point. You know, we see that the UFC 223 with the whole New York thing. You know, we don't know what happened behind the scenes, but you could say, well, maybe why didn't this former champ maybe get it? Oh, I heard he tried to negotiate too hard, and yeah, that's speculation, but it's a good point.
Ben, we got to roll on, my man. Thank you so much for the call. Great question, great discussion.
All right, I want to say good luck to Daniel Straus, and good talking to you, boys.
Thank you, man.
Easy, Ben.
All right, we're going to take a break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 93. When we come back, we'll be talking to UFC lightweight Paul Felder. He mixes it up with James Vick on February 17th at UFC on ESPN 1 in Phoenix, Arizona.
It's not.
The only thing I would like about it is if I drove up and they were closed, I'd be like, thank God.
Oh my gosh.
Go to another spot. What was I thinking?
They were forged from the same ball sack, but act as though they've never met. They are the brothers Garcia, Gorgeous George and Goes.
Tonight at 10:30 Eastern, the San Antonio Spurs look to slay the Golden State Warriors on NBA Radio, Sirius 207 XM86, and streaming on your phone, and at home on Sirius XM connected devices and speakers. You guys want my pick for that game?
Sure.
What's the line? The Spurs at the Warriors. Well, I'll look for it. We better get to Paul Felder.
All right.
We can't keep that guy waiting. If it was a scrub, we'd keep him waiting, but it's Paul Felder. Much respect to Paul Felder taking time out of his camp. He's training for James Vick, and I was just doing that to buy time. The Warriors are minus 11, and I would say take the Spurs. All right, now let's get to Paul Felder. He joins us now on the hotline. What's up, Paul? How you doing?
I'm good, guys. How are you?
Good, my man. Welcome back to MMA Junkie Radio. You're on with George, Goes, and Dan, and we also have another Dan. We have former Bellator featherweight champion Daniel Straus co-hosting the episode with us, and we're excited to talk to you, man, because
nice.
That's a great fight you got coming up against James Vick.
Yeah, man. It was supposed to happen a while back in the summer, and he ended up fighting Gaethje. I ended up fighting Mike Perry, and here we are, just getting matched right back up again, and I think we're both hungry for a win, so it's going to be fireworks.
A veteran like yourself, usually I don't ask this question, but I think it applies. He's different, man. He's 6'3", 100, and he weighs in at 155 and then rehydrates at whatever. So this is the type of guy where you need to get different, a specialized training partner, right? Or can you make do with what you have at Rufus? Is there anybody that's tall like that's not 280 pounds throwing you around?
Yeah, I mean, I did do a lot of training with Mike Rhodes and Gerald Merschart, who are taller guys, and Brendan Allen, who's LSA champ, and trained with those guys. But they're bigger. I did have a couple skinnier Muay Thai guys come in and do some kickboxing with me as well on the weekends that are advanced amateur Muay Thai guys or pro Muay Thai guys. So we have plenty of guys who are tall with really long reach come in and get some work. And Duke's a bigger guy himself, so when I hit pads and move around with him, he's fought a lot of guys himself in his kickboxing career. He was always kind of the smaller heavyweight, so he's got a lot of experience in that department.
Right, and is it? Well, it gets made. A lot gets made out of the tail of the tape. A lot gets made out of the breakdowns. I'm sure Dan can maybe chime in on this as well. But reach is important. But as a fighter, when you're giving up reach, is it like oh boy, okay, we got to come up. We got to have a real solid game plan here. Blah blah blah. Not to say that you're nervous, but is there concern?
Well, there's always concern no matter who I'm fighting. Somebody always brings something to the table. And, if it's Perry, it's his hooks and his power and inside elbows and stuff like that. And with Vic, it's his distance and, how he moves away and uses kicks and his jab and his right uppercut and things like that and his knee. So, yeah, there's always something that you got to approach. This one's just different. It's just a longer reach. So, without giving a game plan away, you got to learn how to get inside that and attack it. And, just going to channel that Mike Tyson in me, baby, and get inside and rip hooks and try to batter him up wherever I can.
Because you're in a camp, you obviously have to step away a little bit from the broadcasting. And when you do, is it refreshing? Like, do you get a chance to get better at broadcasting? The same way a fighter gets better, at mixed martial arts when they're not in a camp. Are you doing the same, or do you just forget about broadcasting altogether and just focus on fighting?
Right now, man, I'm just focused on this fight. I want to get back up into those rankings and make my run this year. Last year was a rough year all around just because of setbacks, a loss, injury. As far as broadcasting, had a great year last year and got a lot of work in. But right now, I'm just focused on going in there and kicking ass, and that's all this has been about. I haven't been posting as much as usual. I haven't been thinking about that. All I'm concerned about right now is training my absolute ass off and going in there and being in the best shape of my life for this fight.
Is it competitive for you fighters that also do the broadcasting? Well, what I mean is, you really have taken some steps, Paul. And for me, like as an outsider, I'm feeling like, wow, the UFC's down with Paul Felder because you started getting, a pay-per-view and then you'd bounce back a week or two later. So with the other guys, do you feel that, I guess, friendly competition or do you guys even start to think, wow, is this guy becoming like the ace on the pitching staff per se, and maybe now I'm in the bullpen? Like, do you guys talk about that or even think about that?
No, I don't think about that. We kind of joke about it. Like, I know Cormier, jokes with me about how he's better at the telestrator and doing all that stuff, and I'm horrible at it. But he gives me props, says I'm better at in-cage interviews and things like that. And obviously, we just listened to Bisping do his first real full show, and I thought he was great. I look forward to working with him. I haven't really worked with Bisping. I had a blast working with Cormier. Obviously, love working with Joe. Worked with Cruz, who's really fun to work with because he just comes at it from such a different mindset than I do. And I think of them more just as friends and colleagues at the moment. We're there's so many shows throughout the year that we're going to get work. I just got to focus on being better at it myself and not missing things when I'm watching the fights break down. And no, I don't really look at it as a competition against those guys.
Do you want a broadcaster question next or a fighter question next?
Hello?
Do you want a fighter question next or a broadcaster question next?
Me?
Yeah. My next question would
Whatever
like
you
to
guys
be.
Want.
Well, what do you want?
I want a fighter question. I'm a fighter.
Let's turn it over to Goes then.
All right. Well, let me ask this fighter question.
I just don't want him to think like, hey, man, what about my fight? Quit talking about the broadcast. All right, go ahead, Goes. Go ahead.
All right, Paul. So you're a very likable guy. Fans love to tune into your fights. Win or lose, you are always that guy that actually sells tickets. And when you're buying it, you see Paul Felder on the bill, it makes you want to buy a ticket. Doesn't matter who you're fighting. That being said, this fight is early in the year. Do you think you can peel off 3 fights this year? And assuming they're all victories, where would it put you? Because the division is stacked, but they're also picking each other off. Where would 3 wins put you at the end of the year, at the end of this year?
Oh shit! I mean, the way the division is, three wins in 2019, I think puts me close to a title eliminator or getting that with 3 wins being ranked that high. I mean, if I beat Vic, he's number 10 right now. I think that puts me close in the top 10. And then, obviously, I wouldn't be fighting outside of the top 15 at that point, unless an injury happened or something like that. So I think that puts me close to the top 5, 3 wins in 2019.
I'm gonna ask you a half broadcaster, half fighter question, and it has to do with that in-ring interview. You've done the in-ring interview, and you've been the guy asking the questions before, and you've been the guy answering questions. Now that you've been through that process where you've asked the questions, when you get asked the questions, is there ever anything in particular, a route that you like to be asked?
Well, one of the things I think is important for fighters to realize, and for somebody asking the questions, is when you want to gear them towards who do you want next, what do you want. Not only are you setting that fighter up, but that's what the fans want. That's what the UFC wants. They want you to know what's next for you. What do you want? So calling somebody out or having being generalized isn't going to necessarily move you up and get you to those big fights. So I think guys got to really take that opportunity on the mic to make an impression. That's your chance to show your personality. So I try to guide fighters towards that, to really talk about something up and coming for them, or something personal that's going to get the fans behind them and show something more about who they are as an individual, and not just, okay, that was an amazing knockout, we'll talk about that, but what makes Paul Felder, what makes Daniel Cormier who they are.
I like it. That's what we've been saying for a long time, and I'm glad you think that way, and hopefully other fighters catch on. All right, Dan Tom, what do you have for? Oh, I'm sorry. Dan Tom, what do you have for Paul Felder?
Paul, I was actually going to ask you about two other fighters. First, a former opponent, Charles Oliveira. I think that's a win of yours that's aged well, I would argue.
That was an awesome win. I saw that one.
Amazing win, and I definitely owe Paul for some beer for cashing a bet for me that night. But neither here nor there. I wanted to ask you about Charles Oliveira because he's been on a crazy run, man. And we were talking on the show the other day, and tell me if you co-sign or what your thoughts are. Call me crazy if you will, but I think that the wrestlers that are top of your division that deserve to be there, whether it's Khabib, obviously, names like Kevin Lee or upcomers like Gregor Gillespie, I feel like Charles Oliveira is a low-key nightmare matchup for people that know anything about styles. Would I be wrong in saying that as a guy that's been in there with him? Paul, can you weigh in on that?
No, man, he's so tricky, and he's so much stronger with his grappling than I even anticipated when I got in there with him. I knew I'd be heavier, I'd be bigger. I thought I'd be able to bully him, which ultimately I was able to do, but using strikes. But when he first took me down, I remember thinking, holy shit, this guy's way stronger, and his pressure is much better than I thought. And I do agree that I think for some of these guys that want to just try to grapple him, they're in trouble the way he just uses darts, anacondas, guillotines. I mean, the guy's tricky from everywhere. He'll attack your legs. So with his stand-up improving the way it is right now, and he's really going for it, I think he's got the ability to really move up those ranks pretty quick.
And that's awesome to hear about. Thanks for including that little detail about strength. Hearing that makes me think he should stay at 155 as opposed to going back to 145. But that parlays into my second question, because I have another question about a fighter who went back and forth from 145 to 155. This one, a teammate, Jared Gordon. I'm a fan of this guy as much as I can be, being a media member. A really inspiring dude. But on the outside, of course, if anybody pays attention to social media, you guys go back and forth, busting each other's balls. It's hilarious. It's funny. But I got to ask you, Paul, you were referencing that last tough year. Obviously, you have your own motivations from family that are well documented, and you probably don't need much more than that, my friend. But was it helpful having a guy like Jared Gordon in camp to kind of get a good perspective, keep a positive perspective on things?
Yeah, man, I love that guy with all my heart. He's one of my best friends in the world, and just seeing him be able to go through tearing his hamstring and losing that fight that he was winning and getting the bonus and just, he got engaged recently, and he's just still keeping a positive mindset. And that's how you have to be in this sport, man. If you let it just ruin your day and bring you down, you'll end up just being a miserable human being. And he's one of those guys that has literally risen from the dead, and having him around, and he's going to be in Phoenix with me. He's one of those people I love to have around, and keeps me in check and keeps me motivated for sure.
You got a good pilot voice. I like your voice, Paul.
You just have a good pilot voice.
He sounds really cool tonight,
Yeah.
Even cooler than usual. It's like that broadcasting thing's worn off a little bit. You're showing off. You're making us look bad.
I've been barking on the pads too much. My voice is probably getting a little raspy.
Paul Felder's our guest. He fights
I'm the loudest guy in the gym, I can tell you that. And Tyron Woodley is probably the only one that can rival my pad hitting noises.
Paul Felder's our guest here on MMAjunkie Radio. He is going to be fighting on February 17th. It's a Sunday, folks, on Big ESPN. 4 letters, ESPN. That's awesome. And these are flyweights. Oh, lightweights. And they are featured on the main card that is headlined by Cain Velasquez and Francis Ngannou. All right, we're also joined by former 2-time Bellator featherweight champion Daniel Straus. He's got something for you. Daniel, what do you have for Paul?
Paul, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, brother?
Hey, question for you. With you being close to now you said you think you have, 3 fights till you're in the mix or whatever. With you being close to getting that title shot and commission saying no, who do you think your next 3 fights, assuming that you win this against Vic, who do you think your next 3 fights would be to put yourself into a title shot?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. Well, obviously, some of it depends on how the fights after me mix up. You got Gaethje and Barboza fighting in Philly, just about a month after me. So I'm definitely watching that fight very closely, especially if I pull off the win next week. I would love a winner of that, but they're up there too. Kevin Lee's still out there, and he's been a staple in the division for a really long time. So I think he's a tough matchup. I'd have to get past potentially a guy like Gaethje. maybe even a Poirier if he maybe loses a fight and needs to take somebody lower ranked. So I think guys like that, like Dustin Poirier or a Barboza, maybe somebody even lower ranked just to get a win. So depending on like how Dan Hooker wins his next fight or something like that. So a lot of fights out there to get me up there, but I think the big ones would be a Gaethje, a Barboza. Obviously, I'm trying to avoid Pettis, who's my teammate. I'm not going to fight him. I don't want to fight Cowboy because I trained with him for a long time, but he's going to move up the ranks now. So there's a lot of things and big names that could catapult me up into that possible title shot.
And out of all those names, who would you like to fight the most?
Man, I think Justin Gaethje. There's something about that guy. I feel like it was destined to happen, just because of how tough he is and gritty he is. And that's with no disrespect. I just love his style. I like how he fights, and I think the fans would just eat that up if me and him ever got matched up.
That would be a good one. Yeah,
I want to see it.
Yeah, me too.
Yep.
All right, first things first, though. You got James Vick on UFC on ESPN
exactly.
1.
That's all hypothetical, exactly. But just to answer the question and be honest. But yeah, I got a tough challenge ahead of me next week that I'm more than prepared for and excited to get to.
Stay healthy, my man. Stay healthy. Safe travels to Phoenix, Arizona. Good luck on February 17th. And as always, thank you so much for giving us time on the MMA Junkie Radio Show.
Thank you, guys. Great questions, man. Always a good interview.
All right, we'll see you, Paul. Take care. All right, we got to take our last break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM's Fight Nation, Channel 93. And quickly, make a note of these Twitter handles. Paul Felder's Twitter handle is @FelderPaul. Daniel Straus is @DanielStraus. And let them know you enjoyed hearing them on the @MMA Junkie Radio Show. We'll be right back.
Push it. Pussy. Come on. You know I live in there, yeah?
I'm a respectful guy. I'm a respectful guy.
Yeah, shut up.
This one's George, and that one's Goes. Now, feel their wrath.
Trust me, that is trash talk. It's just that Brit accent makes it refined trash talk. But that was MVP and Paul Daly getting into it there. Remember, these two are going to face off in the upcoming World Welterweight Grand Prix. And that actually leads to our daily debate question. So let's do our daily debate.
The brothers Garcia seemingly can't agree on anything.
Everybody knows it's duck season. Rabbit season. Duck season. Rabbit season.
Whether it's food,
less filling, tastes great. Less filling, tastes great.
Gambling,
always bet on black. I like red. Black. Red. Black. Red. Black, dummy.
Or even social media.
Instagram. Snapchat. Instagram. Snapchat.
The same applies to the biggest stories in MMA. Time for MMAjunkie Radio's Daily Debate.
Here we go, fellas. Michael Venom Page and Paul Daly got in plenty of verbal shots at each other at today's in London at the news conference for #Bellator 216. Do you think Daly's the one to finally beat MVP Michael Venom Page? Yes or no, but please expand. Dan Tom?
It's tough. Obviously I read up breakdowns for the site, and I like to go through in-depth tape, so I don't want to be held to a pick here. But the one thing I'm going to be looking about when I go through look at the tape, I want to see what Paul Daly does when he's frustrated. He's the more experienced guy, but no matter what you can say about MVP style, it's a very frustrating style. And even if Paul Daly's experience is felt in exchanges, I feel like MVP is probably going to try to even make it more frustrating. And I'm curious if that's going to make Paul Daly go out of position and put himself out there. So I'm really interested in it. If I have to pick a side now, I will lean yes, but do not hold me to that, and I'm going to forget that when I do my analysis. So I'm not set for a bias, but put me on for yes.
All right, somebody who's fought, somebody who's won big fights, someone who's won world titles, someone's mug has been in that Bellator on that roof there where you guys hang the banners. Daniel Straus, what do you think? Can Daly be the one to finally beat MVP?
I'm with Dan. I think it all goes down to how he is able to control the ring with out MVP. I don't want to call it goofing off, but with his style of fighting,
right?
Like you said, does it frustrate him? Is he able to push forward? Is he able to close those gaps and land that that strike that he's known for? Or is he,
It's like a lead left hook that he's got, right?
It's beautiful.
Very explosive.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm like I said, I'm going to lean in yes too. I think he can get it done by closing that gap and not letting MVP get in his head.
I'll go next. All right.
No, I'll go next.
No, I'll go next.
I'll go next.
All
right.
All right. This is what I think. I think that everything you guys are saying is spot on, but something about the last year or so, there are some young guns that have this type of style, and I'm really kind of hinting more towards Israel Adesanya, where I keep thinking a crafty veteran's going to do. No, man, someone like Johnny Walker this past weekend, some of these guys that are striking, and it's kind of like at another level, seem to be giving fits to the veterans, and I'm going to go with MVP. I don't think Daly can get it done. 2 years ago, Daly could have got it done, and that's how long this fight's been simmering.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with I don't think so, man. I think MVP is going to put on a clinic.
Right now, I'm starting to lean towards Daly, and I'm going to tell you why, guys. I feel like this whole time, it's been Daly that's been wanting to fight MVP, not the other way around. And if you look at what's going on in MVP's life right now, he's got some personal issues, and it's kind of rough to go through that when you're going through what probably will be the biggest fight of your career. And Daly has been in that situation before, but we've also seen what you guys have been talking about, and that's Paul Daly get frustrated by fighters. And when that happens, he gets taken out of his game. And I think that MVP can do those things. But right now, on mental warfare, I'm going to lean with Semtex. Paul Daly.
Semtex. All right, there you have it. This is how the voting broke down. 70% said no. 30% said yes. 584 votes came in, and that's our daily debate. Brought to you by the MMAjunkie Radio team and former Bellator two-time featherweight champion Daniel Straus. All right, so we got to close up shop, and I want to thank Daniel Straus for not only being a guest but a co-host, as well as Paul Felder. Tomorrow, our in-studio co-host will be Rob Van Dam, former WWE World Heavyweight Champion. King Mo will also stop by, and we might have one more guest. Don't want to say his name just now. I might jinx it. So stay tuned. Tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, with another edition of MMA Junkie Radio. For Daniel and Dan and Goes and Josh back east, I'm George. Have a nice day. Go out there and be a champion.